Is nuclear power the way to the future or the way to destruction? Nuclear power has had a bad reputation for being a bad energy source, but it has advantages that other energy sources don't have. Nuclear power is energy produced from a nuclear power plant through nuclear fusion to create electricity. President Obama is planning on creating 28 new nuclear power plants across the nation to help fight global warming. My concern is, will these new nuclear power plants affect us in the future in a positive way or a negative way? And with our fossil fuels rapidly depleting, is nuclear energy a good substitute for fossil fuel energy? One of the disadvantages of nuclear energy is the radioactive waste. Radioactive waste is produced when the fuel in a nuclear fuel rod, which is shown right here, is used up within 5 years and becomes unstable. And according to Nick Toran, a nuclear physicist, when it first comes out the reactor after 5 years, it becomes so toxic that it can kill you. If it was unshielded by the rod, within 1 meter, you would die within a few days because of the high levels of radiation. And when they come out, you also have to cool them, which is shown through the next slide right here, which is each one of those rod cases are engulfed in water, which has to constantly circulate to cool them down. And according to Gerrit Smith, a nuclear researcher, if the rods are 1 million times more potent than when they were first introduced to the fusion reactor, which causes them to become unstable. They overheat because they reach about 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And the thing that's most dangerous about this is if the water doesn't constantly circulate, the water in here will boil away within 100 hours, which has happened in Fukushima in Japan, where all the water here disappeared, evaporated, and the fusion rods just reached 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which melted the casing, which caused them to explode, almost destroying the entire nuclear power plant. Next slide. Another issue with nuclear power is there's no permanent storage plan because the waste lasts for about 100,000 years. And there has not been one man-made structure that has stayed structurally sound for that long. And according to this slide right here, the only way that America has planned to get rid of them when they come out of the pool, they're still very radioactive, but they're not overheating as much. And because of this, they will bury them in a isolated area, bury them about 100 feet underground, and seal them in cement to hold off the radiation. And as they sit there, they build and break down a little so they get less radioactive. But if anything was to be built over top of them, it would be very dangerous because if something happens, like someone was drilling, made a house, did plumbing, and they ruptured it, the radioactive would contaminate all the dirt around the area, killing off all the wildlife, and have a huge negative effect on the environment. Another disadvantage is when you mine for uranium, the key component for nuclear energy. And the problem with this is when you mine, the uranium itself releases a radon gas, which inhibits you to conduct cancer in the lungs and the skin through long exposure if the mine isn't completely ventilating. Another issue is when they actually mine, they crush some of the uranium, which will leave behind pulverized rock, sludge, and stuff. And according to Michael Gregg, a New York journalist who studied nuclear reactors, mining, and everything for about 2 years, has stated that because of when they mine, and uranium where it normally is found with, is with mercury, sulfide, and other toxic minerals. These minerals, in return, are very corrosive when they are introduced to groundwater. And when they become introduced to groundwater, they become very acidic, and they'll kill off the plants, vegetation, animals, and fish in the environment. And other than that, let's switch over to the advantages of nuclear power. One of the advantages is nuclear power actually costs less to produce than fossil fuel power plants, because according to the article Nuclear Energy, the power plants actually produce more energy with less resources, because 200 tons of uranium will actually produce enough energy for a year, according to his research, and fossil fuels need 3 million tons of coal to produce that same amount of energy for a year, which is one of the things. And according to this picture, most people fear that because they see smoke and it's a nuclear power plant, they think all the steam and everything on top is radioactive, which it is not. It's like completely safe, normal steam. The problem is with fossil fuels, because what they leave off are ash and sulfide dioxide, which is a toxic chemical that helps create acid rain, which is acidic rain that could, depending on how potent it is, could actually melt metal. If it's real concentrated in a large amount, it's constantly put into that area. And according to the Nuclear Energy Institute, nuclear plants produce energy without emitting any carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, so it's perfectly safe for the ozone layer. And in conclusion, as we have seen, nuclear power has many things going for and against it. I have talked about the process of what nuclear waste is and what you do to it, and how the mining of the minerals for it are very dangerous. And I'll talk about the advantages of how it does not affect the air around the environment when it's being produced. So how will nuclear power affect us in the future? Will it affect us in a positive way in 20 years or a negative way? The choice is yours.